Hello, everybody. Hello, family. How you doing? It's another Sunday evening, wherever it is that you are. Sunday evening where I am, and it's time to connect. All right. So I need to know if you can hear me clearly wherever it is that you are. Please do send me a message in the chat section if you're joining on LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. Our three platforms for now. Do send a message and let me know where you're joining in. So first message coming is from Hello, Stephanie. How you doing? It's great to see you. Great to have you join us today. All right, so let's have others send in messages and let's get here. I'm super excited to be here. I missed each and every one of you. I wasn't able to be here last week, and for some reason, we just couldn't come on last week. And I had so much to share with you. But guess what? You're losing nothing because I'm going to be sharing exactly the same thoughts. Relevant, it remains. The same thoughts that I had to share with you last week. I'm looking forward to sharing and pouring my heart and sharing my heart with you this week. So I trust that you've had an amazing week thus far. In one word, I want you to tell me how your past week was. The week that just went by and ended yesterday. Yes, the week ended yesterday, and today is the beginning of a new week. So, in one word, I want you to describe your last week. One word that just captures your highs, your lows, every single thing that you went through last week, the way that you felt. One word that most aptly describes your week. Go ahead and send me a message. YouTube, it's great to have you. I see activity on YouTube. I see activity on LinkedIn, and of course, I can see activity right here on the Facebook platform. All right, so I'm looking to the dashboard right now. Rewarding. It's great to. It's amazing that you have a rewarding week. And I'm sure that's certainly a prayer point for many people. So I declare over everybody, all right, that your week will be immensely rewarding. Um, yeah. So, it's super great to be here. I'm having an amazing time. I've had a whirlwind of a week, a busy enough Sunday, but everything had to be on pause. Everything had to be on pause just to be here with you today. All right, so we're still waiting for a few more folks to join in. We're gonna give about maybe a couple of minutes to that. Quite a bit to share with you today, so I need to get straight into the business of the day. All right. So as you join us, please do let us know. Let me know where you're joining us from. Let me know where you're watching from, what part of the world you're in. I'd like to connect with you. I'd like to know exactly where you're watching this from. And beyond that, further than that, describe your past week in one word. One word that most aptly describes your past week. And I will be kicking off shortly. All right. Awesome. All right, guys, guess what? Today we're going to be having the leader conversation. It's something that will, grow into a series. But I just want to share a couple of things with you. Now, if you're in Nigeria where I reside, obviously and really it doesn't even matter if you're in Nigeria or not. There are leadership crises, the quest for leadership, the battle for leadership across everywhere in the world, really. And more than ever, the question of the right kind of leadership has come up and has really come to stay because for far too long, people have seen, without a doubt, and without name calling, people have seen the effects of really terrible leadership or bad leadership or poor leadership or misaligned leadership or ineffective leadership. And one of the things that I want to help us, as I've been doing over the past few weeks, if you watch the Independence um, episode that we had, we went through some of the national emblems to further reawaken us, bring our consciousness to what we consider as the things that we ought to be doing to deliver the Nigeria of our dreams, or whatever country that you are, the things that you ought to be doing to help you be able to, deliver the nation of your dream. You have to be a nation builder. And then, much more than that, I remember also saying that these are also some of the things that you have to watch out in the people that you are looking to elect into public office, because there's no point you putting people that lack capacity, lack competency, do not have the right kind of drive or the right kind of energy, do not have the right kind of will, or have ill will towards you as a people, and put them in office and expect that there will be no consequences for your actions, or sadly enough your inactions if you do not vote. Because research has proven that over the years, in the past, the subsequent elections and the past elections that have happened in Nigeria, for instance, it is actually those that didn't vote that put the people in office. Because if you have less than 25% of people that register to vote, and only 25 and less than 25, according to the statistics and the figures, voted, it means that the 75% actually, by not voting, put their voice down on who will be in office, because they say that bad things happen when good people do nothing. And we can't be a people that do nothing. And so, what I really hope to be able to achieve today is to be able to raise your consciousness. And I say that with all measure of deliberateness, to raise your consciousness to the place where we critically understand why it's important for us to vote in the way that we will, and to also stand by what we choose to do as regards who will vote into office. Because the question of leadership can really never, as long as there's human interaction, as long as there's human engagement, as long as we're here on the face of the earth, the question of leadership can never be overflowed. Research also tell us, and I remember at some entry meeting that I had for an NGO just a couple of years ago. One of the things in Lagos, one of the things that I said to them was the most research, and this is empirically true. You could get online and Google this as well. The most researched topic in the last 25 years is leadership. And yet, with all of this, it's amazing how still, when it comes to the doing, which translates into the being, we don't pay attention to the right indices when it comes to leadership. And so, what I intend to be able to achieve by way of this session, and probably dovetailing into a series thereafter, possibly for the month of October, is to raise your level of consideration, your level of thinking as regards leadership. And so, my assignment today is really very simple. I'm going to be speaking to you from the heart. And came across, and I'll tell you what it was. Um, and I need everybody typing in. I need you taking notes. I need you sending me comments. I need you resonating with me even as I go along. Right. So I came across a post, and it was by arguably one of the biggest thought leads and leadership in our dispensation, in our time, in our generation, if you will, John C. Maxwell. And there was something that he said that I thought was profound, and that will serve as the anchor of our conversation today. He talked about five non negotiable characteristics of leaders, five non negotiable characteristics of a leader. And so, as I go through this five, and I'm going to be sharing my thoughts on these five for today, as I go, hopefully, I hope we'll be able to wrap up five in the hour. And if we don't, well, maybe we'll move it to next week or something, but I will try. That's a promise. All right. That's a promise. I will try. So, I want somebody to type down for me five non negotiable characteristics of a leader. Five non negotiable characteristics of a leader that every leader must have. Go ahead, go to the chat section right now, type it. When I get a number of people that have typed it, I will go on. So it means that you are actually the one holding me right now from moving forward. So go ahead and type in the chat section. I'll be waiting to read from you. Five non negotiable characteristics of a leader. Every leader must have this five. Non-negotiable means that you can't have four and have one. You will not be the kind of leader this nation needs. And as I go through the five, here's where I want your thinking, your thoughts to move towards. I want you to look at everybody. All right. And I'm standing right now, although political if I have to. I want you to look at everybody that is running for political office in Nigeria or whatever country it is. I mean, midterm elections are coming up in the United States as well, November 8th, I believe. So, I mean, let this be for my audience in Houston, Texas, where I have family and across the board, really. I want you to look at it and say, does the person I am looking to put in public office, does the person possess all of these five? Does the person have one, two, three, four, or all of the five of these characteristics that we're about to go into? Because hear me now, and please do hear me real good. If the person does not have all of these five, you might be voting in perhaps the better person, but you have to be fully aware that that person will not be able to deliver to you the nation of your desire. And so, when you know honestly, truly, that that person can deliver to you the nation of your desire, it means that you're going to be tightening your belt, fastening your seatbelt, and getting ready for very rocky years ahead during the tenure of that leader. So it's serious. It's really serious business, guys. Really serious business. So the first on the list, and I want us to get to this really quickly. The first on the list is that every leader, and I want someone to write this down. Every leader, number one, must have a sense of calling. And when I say sense of calling, I'm speaking to the fact that every leader must see leadership as something that they've been called to. Gone are the days that you just thrust leadership on people that's, the people that, oh, they just made me a leader. Because now is not the time for people that are ill prepared. People that don't have a sense of calling to leadership are people that are not prepared to lead. Someone who's not prepared to lead in the world that we're in right now means does not have the sufficient developed capacity to lead. Capacity, right, is not just a function of the skills or the talents or the gifts that you have. It's the function of the refined competencies that you've placed upon the skills, the talents, and the gifts that you have. So it doesn't matter how gifted they are, the ability to be able to apply their gifts will determine the kind of outcomes that they have. The ability to apply their gifts come from the place of honing and training. It comes from the place of preparation. Preparation always has an end view in mind. In other words, there must be something that you are called to that you are preparing for. And whilst you're preparing for it, you are preparing towards it. Are you still with me? So every leader must therefore have a sense of calling. Nobody just wakes up and leadership is thrust on you. We will be in trouble. Leadership is not a sense of is not a sense of entitlement. And I'm not, I mean, and by the way, if I was to translate that to one of the local languages in Nigeria, I will say, or I'll say, leadership is not turn by turn. In other words, iwoko. But I didn't call names, right? I'm not saying anything right there. But leadership is really not turn by turn. Leadership is for those that understand that they've been called to a performance. Performance is premeditated on preparation. So I want you to ask yourself this question: for everybody that you're looking to be able to put in one public office or the other, what sense of calling do they have? What kind of preparation have they been making for that office? Right? And please don't misconstrue what I'm saying. Office is not leadership. Okay? But then again, I'm speaking with particular reference to political offices that really requires the highest level of leadership. Mm. So for that guy or that woman whose quotes you're posting up every day, whose pictures you're painting all over your social media handles and walls and what have you, or pages, what have you, do they have a sense of calling? Are they prepared for it? What is their track record? If the person that you're looking to be able to put in that space has this, then you ought to begin to clap because the person has just scored 1 out of 5. Remember, all five are non negotiable. But at least the person is already one step into the 5. Can I come home a little bit? What about you? In every sphere that you are, remember, leadership is premised on influence. It's basically leadership is all about influence. So in your space right there, in wherever it is that you are, whatever it is that you're doing, do you have a sense of calling for it? Is there something that resonates from your within that you are burning to express on your without? Is there something that you've been looking at so much that all you do in your mental conceptualization and the strategization of your actions is to fine tune yourself in conformity of that thing that is right in front of you? Have you been called? And much more than that, do you have a sense of calling? And the reason why I put it this way, talking about, just going by what John C. Maxwell said, the reason why I put it this way, talking about a sense of calling, is that the truth of the matter is that you can be called. But if you don't have a sense of calling, chances are that you will not take enough responsibility for that calling. If you've been with me for a little while, you will understand that responsibility is a coinage of 2 words: ability to respond. In other words, how do you have ability to respond without the adequate preparation? Think about it, guys. If 2023 in Nigeria is supposed to be a turning point in our lives, then there's certain things that we can't afford to do as we did in times old. Don't cast your vote for a man just because he's the most familiar name you know. Don't cast your vote for anybody just because they're the ones that you've always seen. If they're the ones that you've always seen, then why are we where we are? If just being around, experience, just being around day to day, year to year, dispensation to dispensation, if that was all that we needed, then there will be no need for anybody to try to vie for office or for us to call young people to rise up. There will be absolutely no need. But what we don't need, what we do need to a certain degree is experience, but that's not all that we need. Much more than that, we need competency. And competence is the ability to deliver on assignment within the time frame allocated to that assignment. So experience on the time of the names of the people that you know that have been around for all the time they have been doesn't necessarily make them the best choice to lead us, to lead you, to lead me, to lead this nation. Doesn't make them the best choice. And you can quote me anywhere. Yes, I said it. So every leader must have a sense of calling. Can I go quickly to the second one? Let's shoot. The second one is that every leader must have an ability to communicate. Hear me now and hear me real good. There's absolutely no leadership without the right communication. I said it and I said it and I'll say it again. There's absolutely no leadership without communication. What do I mean by that? So you have a sense of calling, all right? Going back to the first point, you have a sense of calling. That's all right. How do you, and if leadership is hinged on influence, how do you influence? And communication is not just, as I've said many times before, communication is not just about the words that you speak or how well you speak or don't speak. All that is necessary, but all that is not the totality of it all. Communication really is about you being able to transfer something from you that wakes up a belief in others and brings them to the point where they bring their best to the table to achieve a common cause. So, therefore, you're not only communicating by words or communicating words, you're communicating dependency, you're communicating integrity, you're communicating honor, you're communicating strength, you're communicating empathy, you're communicating energy. Think of it. All the things that you want your leader to be able to, you want to feel when you see your leader. All the emotions you want to have when you hear your leader. All the things you want to feel inside of you every time that your leader is in your space. And if any leader does not have the ability to communicate that which is within them, then chances are that they will never be able to execute that which is within them. Because their execution is based on the understanding and the receptibility of the people that they supposedly lead. And if the people do not understand where they're coming from, chances are they will not bring their best to the table to achieve the so called common vision. So leadership will fail not because the person is bad. Leadership will fail because the person lacks the competencies to be able to communicate right. So every single time that you come across your preferred candidates, what comes to your mind? What comes to your mind? Who's communicating hope? Who's communicating power? Who's communicating strength? Who's communicating a brighter future? Who's communicating a pathway through all this mayhem that you see? Who's communicating light in the midst of darkness? Who's communicating clarity in the midst of whatever it is? Who is a voice that is above all the noise? Who? You can't be a true leader if you don't know how to communicate. Communication is what enables and endears and calls out a people to be able to stand up for that which you have shown to them, that connects with what is within them, so that they can move towards achieving this common vision. And if I'm to specify, if I'm to bring it to the context of Nigeria, who is speaking best to you and giving you uh, the greatest and best picture of the Nigeria of your dreams? Communication is everything. I say many times that communication is life. Communication is not just the way that you get information across. Communication is life, leadership, everything. Nations go to war because of miscommunication or failed communication or poor communication or wrong communication. Many things happen just because people don't communicate right. So communication is big. Every leader must have an ability to communicate. And I don't want to spend too much time talking about communication because, that's my field. I could break it down further and further, but perhaps in subsequent episodes to come in the month of October, we'll take each of these and make it the topic for the day. But suffice to say, I just want you to understand because we don't have time. And I need a people to have deeper understanding of who it is they should be partners with to take this nation forward. Because that's what you do when you vote. That's what you do in your life. You partner with people to drive a vision, the ability to communicate. So, number one was a sense of calling. Number two, the ability to communicate. Number three, and I need somebody writing this down for me. I need to see someone writing this down for me. Number three, every leader One non-negotiable characteristics that a leader must have is the ability to creatively solve problems. Every leader must be able to think out of the box, must be able to look at the resources within. It's not just enough to complain about the lack of resources. You have to look at what you have and be able to make the best of what you have in such a way that it changes the situation from bad to good. You have to be able, like God your Father, to call light out of darkness. Remember, God did not wait for chaos to pass. Hear me now. God didn't wait for chaos to finish before he established light. He looked at the mess, he looked at the madness, he looked at the non-form. He looked at nothing that was making sense. He looked at the situation. He did not say that it was the past government that passed on nonsense to them. He did not say that it was the former regime that did not do the things that they had to do. What God did was to look at darkness and call forth light out of that darkness. Every leader, every leader must be able to creatively provide solutions to problems. You have to be creative. There will always be problems, but the question I will always ask leaders in any of my mentorship sessions is, what have you done with what you have? Chances are that you will never have it all. Chances are that it will never always be okay or all right or perfect. Perfect is even out of the question. Chances are that every situation is waiting for you to do something about it so that it gets better. And the problems to every generation do not lie outside of that generation. Actually, or rather, the solution to every problem in a generation does not lie outside of that generation. The same way that the solution to mega problems around you do not lie outside of those problems. Light was called out of darkness. Leaders must be able to think their way through, must be able to figure out, how do I use what is available to me right now? Haven't seen the outcomes as they were, understanding that if things were to be different, taking it to regard the resources I have about me, looking about how to be able to mitigate the gaps between expectation and reality, and mapping out a strategy in a way that is sustainable, that would deliver a solution to a problem. So, which of your candidates right now is posturing towards providing solutions to your problems? Who is showing you that they have an understanding, number one, an acknowledgement, number one, of even if we go with the ABCD model that I use many times, first of all, they accept that there's a situation. B, they believe that they have the capacity and competency to be able to solve that situation, to be able to prefer solutions to that situation. C, they commit by way of implementation of the strategies that they've built up on the plans that they've been able to put forward. They commit to action, and D, they deliver the solutions to that situation. So when you think about it, campaign seasons are on right now in Nigeria. When you think about it, who is delivering what? Who is able to give you solutions? Not just identifying the issues is good, but everybody can readily tell what the issues are. Everybody can readily tell what the challenges are. Everybody knows that it's not perfect. Everybody knows that it's not all together. The question is, the kind of leader that we're looking for, the kind of leader that you ought to be looking for, is the man that can look at that situation, put together the things in that situation, and pull out the answer even from that situation, calling light out of darkness. Every leader must be able to do that. So I take it again from the top. We have two more to go. I take it again from the top. Every leader must have a sense of calling. Every leader must have a sense of calling. Every leader must be able to communicate. If they don't have a sense of calling, they have no business being in any kind of leadership position. I know that I'm focusing on political leadership and all of that, but again, please do not forget that when I also speak, I speak to you as a person. Do you have a sense of calling for the things that you are looking to have some sort of leadership, responsibility? And leadership is not positional; is responsibility inclined to the things that you have responsibility over. Do you see why it is that you exist to be able to provide leadership in that space? Do you understand the need for you to be there? Do you understand the why it is you that is to be there? Do you understand how it is that you should be there? And do you understand what it is that you should be doing there? Every leader must have the ability to communicate. Number two, communication is cannot be overflowed. How can you be a leader and not know how to communicate? How can you be a leader and not be able to show integrity, to show honesty, to show strength, to show forthrightness? How can you be a leader and do not show dependability? How are you a leader and you don't show resilience, grit? You don't know how to deal with pain. You don't show tenacity. Because these are the things that you communicate beyond the words. And yes, you must have the words. And yes, you must be able to be a voice. Yes, you must be able to project. Yes, you must be a light. You must be a voice. You must be a bridge. Yes, you must be all of that. Because even though you were given a vision and it's for you to be able to show forth that vision to a people so that they can follow you and bring their best to the table to achieve that vision, your inability to rightly show to them what the vision is, you will misdirect them. Because if I think that it is for us to leave where I am right now and go to Kaduna, and you really want us to go to Lagos, no matter how well intentioned I am, I will be going in the right direction, or in the wrong direction, rather. And so there must be clarity. Every leader must be able to communicate right. And not just communicate right, communicate to get the job done. And number three, I said that every leader must be able to think out of the ordinary, must be creative enough to provide solutions to problems. You can't keep blaming the past government. You can't keep blaming those that you took over from. You can't keep blaming even the country itself. You've got to be able to look at the things in front of you, acknowledge them, sort them out, consider them, see where the gaps are, think of where to get the help to the gaps, think of how to mitigate the gaps, bridge the gap between your expectation and the reality by way of planning, strategizing, and implementation, and deliver value by way of solution to such problems, calling forth light out of darkness. And so we'll move on to the last two. Remember, this is hinged on a statement from arguably, again, like I said, one of the greatest thought leads on leadership in our generation, John C. Maxwell. And so the fourth, number four, very importantly, every leader must be generous. Every leader must be generous. And what's generosity? Generosity is the ability to give to meet a need. And so you must be generous with yourself. And that's why it's needless to say that leaders must be selfless to the extent of promoting their vision. When you're selfish to the extent of sabotaging the vision, then you're no longer being selfless, you're now being silly. And so there must be a balance. Leadership, leadership is about leadership is about you understanding and seeking for how to be able to give. A generous person is somebody that is always looking for how to give. And a generous person is one that ensures that he builds enough to be able to have enough to give. Is also one that is able to allocate from where he will draw resources to be able to give. Is your leader someone that meets this checklist? Does your leader meet up to this? Is your leader generous? Or who you call leader? Because I'm very slow to tag someone a leader unless they meet a checklist. You could be a leader in training, you could be aspiring to be a leader, you could be a leader working on yourself. But for me to tag you a leader, you must meet all five. Remember, all five that we're discussing today are non-negotiable. No, it means that you can't have three and not have two. It means that you must have all five. And so having all five means that, and number four being generosity. You must be generous. Generous with your ideas, generous with your goodwill, generous with your kindness, generous with your ability to understand, to train, generous with your patience, generous with your confidentiality, generous with the ability to meet people where they are but don't leave them there. Every leader must be generous, non negotiable, kind. What's in your heart? Do you feel the pain of the people? Are you willing? Do you have enough kindness, warmth, love, care, discipline to give? A leader is a giver, must give his time to the pursuance of a cause. And you can't give your time to the pursuit, genuinely give your time to the pursuance of a cause if you're not giving your time to the people that will enable you to deliver that cause. So when you look to vote people into public office, are they generous? And when I say generous, generosity is not paying bribes. Generosity is not giving people to manipulate them. That's not generosity. Don't get it twisted. Generosity is not giving money to influence people. No, no, no. Generosity is ensuring that you give of yourself so that they can become better versions of themselves. Don't you know that a leader is not supposed to just raise people to be like him? A leader is supposed to raise people to be the best version of themselves. And so you must be generous enough to give of your own experience, mentorship, to give of your own experience so that it activates and enables them to come to the best version of themselves. If they're not at the best version of themselves, if you don't give enough of yourself, because maybe perhaps you want to still have more than they do, then my friend, you are not a leader. So how much generosity has the person that you're looking to vote into office? How much generosity have they shown over time? How generous have they been for the betterment of humanity? How generous have they been in building people up? And I didn't just say in putting money in the pockets of a few. I mean, I'm not just saying in establishing a cabal and enriching that cabal. No, 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 no. I'm not just saying in having a select few that you are kind to and that you channel funding to them and not, no, no, no. I'm saying how generous are they in giving of themselves, their skills, their competence, their goodwill, their heart to be able to build people up, to ensure that the vast majority of the greater population becomes even better than they were yesterday. Because being a leader is not easy. It takes a lot of everything that you have. But generosity also means that as you give, you're doing it from the place of understanding. And guess what? From the place of joy. So, who is given joyfully? Who is given with understanding? Who is given not just to influence or turn you around or get you to do what they want? Who is given because as they pour into you, he allows you to become again the best version of yourself. was given. And finally, of the five that we have, the five non negotiable characteristics as laid out by John C. Maxwell. Finally, a leader, having gone through all of this. Number one, a sense of calling. Number two, an ability to communicate. Number three, being creative in problem solving. Number four, being generous and extremely so. Number five, a leader must be consistent. Consistency comes from the place of belief. Everybody and anybody that you know that is consistent is because they have a clear enough picture of what the end is, and therefore they've understood that there's a need to keep on going. It doesn't look like it today, but they keep pushing. It didn't work out yesterday, but there's something ahead of them. They keep pushing. They believe enough. They believe in tomorrow more than the obstacles of today. They see the light of the future is brighter than the darkness of now. The pleasure or the prize of tomorrow much outweighs the prize of today. The prize, the PRIZE of tomorrow outweighs the price, PRICE of today. So, because of that, every leader is consistent. If you've ever seen someone who is not consistent in what they do, somebody that cannot follow through over an appreciable time periodical, somebody that starts one thing and leaves it and then disappears and comes back and starts again and comes back, that person, my friend, is not a leader that can be trusted. Is not a leader that you can partner with to take your nation forward, take your business forward, take your family forward, take yourself forward. You can't be given to that kind of person. Consistency is key, because consistency requires discipline. It requires determination. It requires tenacity. It requires mental grit. It requires mental strength. It requires a deep level of understanding. And without understanding, how then can you be able to be creative enough to provide solutions to problems? Without understanding, how are you going to be able to know what to communicate and the way to communicate? Without understanding, how can you even recognize the calling that you have? Talk less of than having a sense of being called. And all that understanding underlines the ability to be consistent. Being consistent is not just doesn't just come from, I just want to be consistent. I'm just going to be doing this. No, 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 no. A man without a clear picture of what tomorrow holds will give up at every turn, thinking it's an end and not realizing there's just a twist and a bend. Consistency is not just a nice word to throw around. Consistency speaks of hard work. It speaks of a commitment that is unshakable, undeniable, and cannot simply be flushed down the loop. So, if you have a leader or who says he's a leader, or somebody that you're willing to partner with to make a leader, or somebody that is functioning, that supposedly finds himself in the realm or in the space of leadership and does not have a sense of calling, lacks the ability to communicate, does not know how to provide solutions to problems, is not generous, and has failed repeatedly to be consistent, that person, ladies and gentlemen, can I declare to you, that person cannot be a leader. That can't be the kind of leader that we have in this time, this season, this generation, and this epoch. That can be the kind of people that we put in our public offices. And it's not just because you could say, okay, keep doing the wrong thing, keep doing the wrong thing. That's consistency. No, if you take that's why all five are non-negotiable. The sense of calling gives you direction. Your ability to communicate shows how well you're able to share that direction to the people that you need, your godly butlers, your enablers, and the people that you're called to lead, to draw them to the place of a massive exodus in the right direction. That clarity is what allows you to be able to think through every problem and every situation, understanding that the fact that you can see the end means there must be a way, even in that situation right now. And it's your consistency that ensures that through the twists and the turns, the mountains and the valleys, the highs and the lows, the ups and the downs, that because you have clear enough an idea of what it is that you're trying to arrive at, or in this case, in the context of my conversation today, the nation that you're trying to get to, you understand that consistency, therefore, clarity, therefore allows you to remain consistent. So these are five non-negotiable. Can't be you can't walk your way round about them. You can't just talk about being consistent and not having a sense of calling. You can't just talk about having a sense of calling and not understanding how to appropriately, aptly, and in the best form and manner communicate. You can't just talk about being able to communicate and not be able to find problems, solutions to problems, even in the midst of the darkest situations or the most dire situations. You can't talk about all of that if you're not generous. What solutions would you be given to a problem without generosity? How can you provide solutions if you're not consistent in trying out what works in the midst of a billion things that do not work? What are you consistent about if it's not about being kind and being generous? What are you consistent about? Think about it. And so I want us to come to this point, guys, where we say to ourselves that I am not necessarily going to vote for A, B, or C because everybody is saying A, B, or C. I'm going to vote for this person because this person meets what I consider to be the hallmarks of the checklist of who a leader should be. I am not only going to look at who I'm voting for, I'm going to look at myself and say to myself and say, regards to the things that I'm doing, do I have a sense of calling? How well have I been able to communicate the calling and the vision that I have to the people round about me? How well am I able to look at situations and instead of first panicking or throwing my hands in the air, instead of looking for who to blame or we be walking out creatively thinking of excuses, I'm creatively thinking of solutions. You know, the people that the first thing they see in the face of every challenge is think of how to wriggle their way out of it. Well, there are people that I know that are called to be able to provide solutions to the problems that they confront. You are here for a reason. Each one of us, you and I, we're here for a reason. So don't just look at those running for office and say, well, we'll just let's just get he's our party man. He's our party man. Your grandchildren will remember what party they were in. They will only remember the damage that was done that you handed over to them for them to fix. And any generation that hands over a problem or a disadvantage to the next generation is a failed generation. Any generation that hands over an advantage to the next generation is a great generation. Do you want us to be a failed generation or a great generation? So if you look at it across the spectrum, from personal to public to political, we need more leaders. We need true leaders across board. True leaders that will stand at the place, understanding why they're there. True leaders are consistently seeking for the how. true leaders that know who to connect with to be able to get the kind of outcomes that they want, and they know that they have to be able to communicate everything that is within them in the best possible way so that they can be able to wake up a people to be able to get the job done. Because when the true leaders show up, a people will arise. When you show up, the people that you're sent to will arise. When I show up, everyone that I've been sent to will arise. And so this is where we are. The things I've shared to you today are for your deep, utmost deep consideration. They're for you to reflect on, think about, and say to yourself, and put it as a checklist. Write it down. Number one, the sense of calling. Number two, an ability to communicate. And number three, ability to creatively solve problems. And number four, generosity. Number five, consistency. If does do the people that I'm looking at, do I have all these things? Do the people that I'm putting into public office, do they have all these things? And if for yourself the answer is no, then begin to seek how to build capacity in each of these areas. Begin to seek how to make yourself better in where it is that you're deficient. Because until you have all five, you're a failed leader. And a failed leader, the sad thing about a failed leadership is that the kind of havoc that it wreaks. Failed leadership don't just leave you where it is, because life is just a series. Outcome in life is a series of decisions that we make. The decisions that we make is based on the clarity and the quality of information that we have. And so every time that we take a bad decision, we have grievous outcomes. That's why if we don't do anything about what we see around about us today, the generation to come will literally curse us out. Remember, it is only a great generation that hands over an advantage to the next generation. Let's do this. Let's get this right. Let's get this right. We have an opportunity. We don't know what the next 4 years will be like. I mean, God keeping us and all, we'll still be here. But if we don't do this right, we further will empower those bad leaders and will weaken good leaders. Let's do the right thing. Let's do the right thing. Let's put the right people in the right offices. The right people. And if your political candidate meets any of the checklists that I've said, and we'll share more over the weeks to come, if your political candidate meets any of the checklists, then celebrate, because you're really partnering to push a good man into office. If your political candidate doesn't meet the checklist, then you're pushing the wrong person. Choose Nigeria above person and above party. And so I'm bringing it to a close tonight. I'm extremely delighted to have shared my thoughts on the five non-negotiable characteristics of a true leader and what every true leader should have. And I'm hoping that this was immensely enlightening to someone. Share this video to friends, to people that you believe should be a part of it. And let me know what your thoughts are. Send me messages, put it in the comment section. Let me know what your thoughts are. And we'll be back next Sunday as we take this leadership conversation a little bit further. All right. So good night, everyone. Thank you for spending the last 55 minutes to 1 hour with me. And I trust that your Sunday is great. So as you go into your week, let me just declare for your week that you will have a super great week. You have a week of weeks. And this week, dear leader, show up as a true leader. Good night, everyone, and God bless you.